Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Energy Development Corporation's earnings call covering the financial and operating results for the first 3 months of 2017. For your information, this call is being recorded. I will now turn the floor over to Mr. Boy Recio, Head of Investor Relations. Please go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to EDC's conference call to discuss the financial and operating results for the first quarter of 2017. As a reminder, materials for today's call will also be posted in the Investor Relations page of the company's website. We have likewise subscribed to a playback of this call from our service provider, TGI. The corresponding passcodes will be made available only upon request by all concerned from EDC Investor Relations. Before handing over the floor to the next speaker, I would like to remind everyone that comments made for the call's duration may include forward-looking statements that are based on current expectations and as such are subject to a variety of risks and uncertainties that could cause actual results to materially differ from current expectations. Participating in today's call are the following: Mr. Nestor Batay, Chief Financial Officer; Mr. Erwin Avante, Head of Corporate Finance; Mr. Reman Chua, Head of Winbo Business Development Group, Solar and Wind; Mr. Carlo Vega, Head of the Group's Marketing Department; Mr. Irene Itoses, Head of Central Maintenance of Generation and Engineering Group; Ms. Bel Manlapas, our Controller; Ms. Cristina Bernadette Gosinco, Corporate Finance. I will now turn over the floor to Mr. Batay to give everyone a brief introduction.
Thank you, Boy, and good afternoon to everyone. For the first 3 months of 2017, there were 3 major factors that affected the company's financial results. First is the 6% increase in revenues of 516 million, brought about by the improvements in the generation performance of our Burgos Wind and Unified Leyte plants. Our performance was also helped by higher average tariffs, and this was helped in part by the increase in Bachmann's contracted capacity and thus lower exposure to the spot market. The second, we posted a slight increase in operating expenses, primarily due to retrofit and other activities during this period. And lastly, was the reclassification of $66.8 million of long-term debt to the current portion. If you will recall, we recently did a tender offer for a portion of our $300 million 6.5% bond that is due on 2021. We accepted offers that, if you convert to pesos, would be equivalent to about 3.3 billion, and this will help us further in managing our FX exposure and reduce refinancing risks in 2021. Let me turn over the floor to Christine Bernadette to discuss the financial results in greater detail.
Thank you, Nestor. The next slide shows a summary of our financial performance for the first 3 months of 2017. A separate discussion on the major drivers will be done in the succeeding slides. For the first quarter of the year, our RNIA, or core net income of the company, stood at 3.25 billion. It's up by 24% from the first quarter of last year. Consolidated revenues reached 9.6 billion, while our EBITDA margin increased to 68%. These are mainly driven by higher revenues and lower cash OPEX. However, net income stood at 3.26 billion for the period, down marginally by 1% due to higher depreciation and foreign exchange losses. These were partially offset by lower interest expense for the period. On consolidated revenues, It increased by 5.7% from 9.1 billion in 2016 to 9.6 billion in 2017. And this is mainly due to the following. First, higher generation volumes by our Burgos Wind Farm and Unified Leyte facilities. Burgos was up by 34% as we experienced better wind factors that are more inclined or in line with our long-term resource projections. While Unified Leyte was up 10% as we are now starting to reap the benefits of our asset rehab program. Next is higher average tariffs from Bacman due to its lower reliance on spot market, contributing 218 million in revenue. Its average tariff increased 34% from 2.53 pesos in the first quarter of 2016 to 3.40 pesos per kilowatt hour in first quarter of 2017. Higher average tariffs from our Unified Leyte plant contributed 154 million pesos in revenue, based on the escalation mechanism embedded in our PPA. The first three revenue drivers helped offset the decline in sales volumes of SG Hydro, GCG, and Nasolo, mainly due to lower ancillary services, partial curtailment in the Visayas region, and the retrofitting of Tongonan Unit 1. Also, ULGEI increased revenues by 10% due to higher average tariffs following the increased contribution from the contracted capacity. Slide 8 summarizes the movement of the operating expenses from the first quarter of 2016 to first quarter of 2017. Operating expenses for the given period marginally increased by 1% or 62 million pesos due to the following major contributors. A 117 million increase in purchase services and utilities, mainly due to retrofit and other activities during the period. Another contributor is depreciation. It increased by 104 million, resulting from the decomponentization of some of our Burgos Wind and BGI assets in the previous year. Basically, we recorded an accounting change such that some assets that were initially depreciated over 25 years are now depreciated over a shorter period. The increase in revenue is partially offset by a 340 million. The increase in operating expenses was partially offset by a 340 million reduction in personnel costs that is partly due to the organizational restructuring that we implemented last year. So in the succeeding slides, I will be discussing the specific performance of each plant of the company. Slide 9 will discuss Unified Leyte. Revenues went up by 406 million due to a 9.8% or a 76 gigawatt-hour increase in energy sales as the plant starts to benefit from the Reliability Improvement Program in 2016, and a 5.5% increase in tariffs considering the movement in peso-dollar exchange rate. As a result, net income increased by 18%, despite higher forex losses and income tax. Updates on the asset rehab program will be discussed in the later slide. The next slide is about Palintinon plant. Palintinon's revenue declined by 8.3% or 148 million due to reduction in sales volume despite higher average tariffs. First quarter volume decreased this year as an influx of solar power in Negros Island caused some of our capacity to be curtailed. The congestion is expected to ease up following the Cebu-Negros-Panay transmission line upgrade of NGCP in 2021. In the meantime, we are looking at mitigating this risk by entering into new contracts and ancillary services agreements for our Negros plant. The next slide discusses Nasolo. Revenues dropped by 46 million in the first quarter of 2017, as it was also affected by the partial curtailment in Negros. We will be mitigating this risk by entering into ASPA contracts. Slide 12 discusses our Tumaunan Power Plant. Revenues went down by 1.6% because of lower sales volume despite higher average tariff. Sales volume declined due to the scheduled retrofit of Unit 1. Recall that works for each unit of the 112.5 megawatt Tumaunan Power Plant will be progressively conducted. After the retrofit, we would basically have a brand new plant with an 8 to 10% operated capacity, similar to Bacman. Net income decreased by 9.7% with higher depreciation and higher forex losses compared to the previous period. We will also be providing an update on our retrofit activities later in the presentation. Results of the Bacman plants are shown in slide 13. Revenues are up by 23% or 162 million, mainly due to lower exposure to the spot market. This increased the tariff prices by 34% from 2.53 pesos to 3.40 pesos per kilowatt hour in 2017. Volume went down by 22 gigawatt hours due to the scheduled maintenance of Unit 1 in March this year, as compared to last year's Q1 PMS of our 20 megawatt Unit 3. Operating income slightly increased because of higher revenues with offsets from lower insurance claims and higher forex losses. Next slide is about Mindanao Power Plant. Revenues slightly increased in Q1 2017 from 610 million pesos to 626 million pesos due to higher tariffs despite lower sales volume. Sales volume went down by 6 gigawatt hours due to a scheduled preventive maintenance program conducted Feb of this year. Net income declined by 29% with a higher OPEX due to the major PMS of Mindanao 1 and higher foreign exchange loss. The following slide discusses ULGEI and the performance of the UL strips of energy. Net loss decreased by 26 million on account of higher revenue. Although we still sell the strips at a loss, we have mitigated this by entering into new contracts and reducing our reliance on the spot market. Slide 16 is about our hydro plant. Revenues decreased by roughly 200 million pesos due to decline in sales volume, brought about by weak revenues from ancillary services and decline in average tariff with the expiration of NEECO 2 Area 2 contract. Slide 17 shows the results of our Burgos Wind project. Revenues increased by 303 million pesos due to a 39.4% higher energy sales. As we will also discuss in our company update section later, wind generation this year is more in line with our long-term wind resource forecast. Next slide discusses our solar plant. Revenues increased by 8.7%, but net income decreased from 10 million to 8 million pesos due to higher OPEX, as payment of maintenance fees for Burgos Solar 2 started just this May of 2016. For the next slide, it shows the movement in our RNI. The consolidated recurring net income increased by 19% or 543 million from first quarter of 2016 to 2017. Movement is mainly due to the following: higher recurring net income from improved performances of Unified Leyte, Burgos Wind, and from low WESM exposure of Bacman. The increase is offset by lower contributions from plants with lower generation as this period, such as Pantambangan, Masiway, Palimpinon, and Mindanao. Next slide shows our cash balance. In terms of our cash flow, cash generated from operations during first quarter of 2017 ended at 13.8 billion pesos. The cash generated were used primarily for debt service requirements, maintenance capex, and cash dividends. Okay, so for the next slide, or for the following slides, we'll discuss EDC's liability management. In the upper left chart of the slide, you can see that our ratio of peso to dollar denominated loans continues to be at 62% peso to 38% dollar. The bottom chart of the slide shows the dollar P&L exposure. After the recently concluded tender for the 300 million bonds, our dollar-denominated debt and expenses went down by about 70 million pesos to 430 million compared to the 500 million in 2016. The decrease in dollar exposure represents the amount of bonds bought back. The tender offer not only reduced our FX exposure, but also extended the maturity from a remaining life of 4 years to 10 to 15 years. It also reduced our refinancing risk in 2021. We also have dollar-linked revenues from our power contracts, as well as offsetting exposure from the Burgos project, resulting to a total uncovered forex exposure of about 80 million pesos. $80 million. This exposure is only a translation risk, as our cash flow exposure, as displayed in the upper right chart of the slide, shows that we can be covered by our dollar-linked revenues except in the year 2021. We intend to hedge the remaining $80 million uncovered exposure through accumulation of cash in dollars and entering into different derivative products such as call spread and cross-currency swaps. So for the next slide, we're showing our consolidated financial ratio. Current ratio was lower due to higher current liabilities from the reclassification of the tendered bonds, which will be redeemed on April this year. Debt-to-equity ratio improved due to a higher net income and settlement or repayment of our 3.5 billion bonds which matured in December 2016. Meanwhile, net debt to EBITDA decreased on account of lower cash OPEX. I will now turn you to Ricardo Vega, who will be providing a short update on market situation of EDC.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is just to give an update on the marketing and contracting activities of the company, particularly for Bacman, BGI, and Nasulo. You will see how we continue to move towards our target of significantly, if not fully, covering our WESM exposure. So last December 2016, Bacman's exposure was at 41 megawatts selling to the spot market, which was roughly 30% of its capacity. By May, or this May 2017, we have reduced it to 19 megawatts, and by December, we will reduce it to 11 megawatts. Now, 11 megawatts, I guess, will become 2 megawatts or 0 after we've signed our the recent contract with Unilever. So essentially, by December 26, 2017, we will be 100% contracted for Bacman. For Nasulo, you will see the same trend from 21 megawatts of capacity being sold to the WESM. We have since sold or close to 42 megawatts of its capacity to contract. Now, the difference between Bacman and Nasulo is that Bacman's contracts came from a mix of contestable customers and electric cooperatives, while Nasulo's contracts mainly came from the ancillary service contract with NGCP. As for hydro, you will see that in the next slide, slide 25, that from 91 megawatts of uncontracted capacity being sold to SM, we have since covered it, or we will cover it by the recent contract signed with NGCP. This is essentially a renewal of our ancillary service contract, which expired last December. By second half of this year, we intend to have the ERC approval for the 60 megawatt ancillary service contract with NGCP, while the remaining 30 megawatts will be a mix of, we're still looking for contestable customers that will replace the 25 to 30 megawatt contract with NICO 2 Area 2. That's it for my part. I will pass you on to Raymond.
Okay. So for slide 26, we will now discuss the performance of the Burgos Wind project. So the wind generation for the first quarter this year has finally caught up with our long-term wind resource estimates. Last year, full year generation totaled around 320 gigawatt hours, which although it increased more than 26% compared to the 2015 numbers, which were curtailed, it's still below our long-term P50 estimate of around 360 gigawatt hours. For the first 3 months of 2017, total generation volume reached 144 gigawatt hours. This is a 40% increase from the numbers we posted in the same period in 2016. Based on our internal forecasting models, the high wind seasonality in the first quarter accounts close to about 34% of the P50 wind generation target for 2017. With Q1 results already 40% of our P50 estimates for the full year 360 gigawatt hour generation, we're confident of meeting our annual target this year. So I'll now turn you over to Irene Itoces, our Head of Central Maintenance, to provide an update on our Tongonan retrofit and asset rehab program.
Thank you, Raymond. Good afternoon. Irene Itoces here, and I'll be discussing the various reliability operating works that we are doing on the different power plants. To begin, the unplanned outage factors, or UOF, reported for the main power plants have improved significantly since the company implemented its split-wide retrofit and rehabilitation strategy. On slide 27, you will see how we have correspondingly profiled the different power plants according to age versus the reported unplanned outage factor as of March 2017. The general objective is to move each of the plants into the lower left-hand corner of the chart, where the unplanned outage factor is low and the asset's life cycle is reset to early stage. The resetting of the life cycle clock is achieved by investing CapEx and doing life cycle extension initiatives through retrofit and rehabilitation works. EDC remains committed to reining in the unplanned outage factor of all the units to less than 5%, or as we can also say that we're targeting for a minimum of 95% reliability. Limiting the discussion to units with a UOF in excess of 5% from the left to right, we have Tongonan Unit 1, Mindanao 1, the Leyte Optimization Plant, and Upper Mahiao Unit Number 1 shall be discussed. Tongonan Unit 1 registered a UOF of 40.3% following the last planned outage, extending beyond the original target duration of 58 days, primarily due to site weather conditions, severely affecting the execution of outdoor critical works, together with the additional regulatory requirements imposed by NGCP. 26 and 15 days each were reported to have greater than 4 and 8 hours of rain during the day, respectively. This is in addition to having Tropical Depression Marcy in November 24 Nina in December 25, and Auring on January 8. Mindanao 1 registered a UOF of 9.887%, following the plant outage extending beyond the original target duration of 32 days, primarily due to some emergent works and safety compliances. The 50.1 megawatt Leyte optimization plants consist of a number of small unit plants rated at 4 to 5 megawatt each, with the exception of the 16 megawatt bottoming cycle power plant. For greater impact, the focus was initially for the plant with larger single units, as in the case of previously discussed Tongonan and Mindanao power plants. So viewed in this context, it is easy to understand why no improvement in the UF was registered at 45.96. As will be explained in the succeeding slide, remedial works for the optimization plants have already commenced. The next one is Upper Mahiao, having registered UOF of 14.92. Following the unit's ongoing unplanned outage due to increasing vibration on Unit 40 steam turbine. This required to replace the existing rotor with a newly procured unit ahead of its planned schedule, which is originally intended for Unit 10 steam turbine. Next slide is the slide 28. EDC remains committed to reducing our unplanned outage factor to below 5% by addressing fleet-wide life cycle reliability issues. On the right-hand side, I'll just go through the various plants. In late 2016, we've already completed the first of the 4 20-megawatt steam turbine units of Upper Mahiao, with a complete new steam path, new rotor and diaphragms of improved metallurgy by using 12% chrome turbine rotor. The second brand new rotor was successfully installed during the first quarter of 2017 in STG-40. We'll continue with the third rotor in October 2017 and the fourth one in first quarter of 2018. The next plant is the 112.5 megawatt Tongonan power plant. We are currently on plant outage doing retrofit for the second of the 3 units. Immediately after completing this work, the third of 3 units shall be placed on plant outage after also for retrofitting. A timeline and progress report showing improved plant steam rate from the retrofitted Tongonan unit shall be shown in the succeeding slide. Just to put things in perspective, the individual units belong to Leyte optimization plant are relatively smaller at 4 to 5 megawatt each, except for Malitbog bottoming, which is in 16 megawatt conventional steam turbine unit. Focus on resetting service life of these smaller units has now begun, or are now being given, with works on larger units nearing completion. Orders have already been placed for new rotors and diaphragm of both Mahanagdong and the Tongonan tapping cycle plants. The brand new components are to be in the country by second quarter of 2018. But in the interim, we have sent the existing rotors of the 2 plants for repair, which we expect to be commissioned by May 2017 for Tongonan first unit, July 2017 for the second unit, and September 2017 for the third unit, while August 2017 for one of the Mahanagdong's 2 tapping units. For the Malitbog bottoming cycle plant, the new rotor that has been purchased from the OEM and is expected to arrive sometime in 2018. For Tongonan retrofit, slide 29 reports on the results of the performance that was done on the very first unit of Tongonan based on the actual data collected by our plant personnel. On a per kilowatt hour basis, with unit 1 still being worked on, reported plant steam rate is high at 3.33 kilogram per megawatt per second. The metric improves to 2.96 kg per megawatt per second soon after Unit 1 has been returned to service. For Mindanao 1 stator replacement, slide 30 shows how EDC have robustly addressed the reliability issue on the generator by replacing the stator with brand new OEM unit that caused unit duration brought by serious deterioration on electrical winding due to partial discharge effect on the stator coils. Furthermore, the generator rotor has been upgraded by replacing the retaining rings with improved metallurgy susceptible to stress corrosion cracking, which is now widely used in the industry. Likewise, normal major maintenance of steam turbine has also been conducted in parallel using readily spare rotor and available and diaphragm as part of driving down outage duration. The upgrade and modification on cooling tower components follow our fleet-wide program to improve efficiency and to increase the reliability by replacing near end-of-life components. That was my last slide. Thank you. I will now turn the floor to our moderator, Boy Rasio.
Operator, we can now move to the Q&A portion of today's call. Kindly establish the queue.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to ask a question, you can signal on your telephone keypad by pressing *1. We can now take our first question from German Del Paz, Abacus Securities. Please go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon. I just want to ask, I just have 3 questions. First is, I just want to ask for more color regarding the organizational restructuring that led to the lower personnel costs. And then second is, I just want to ask for more color regarding the curtailment of Palimpinon and Nasolo that led to lower volumes. And then lastly, I didn't quite catch it, but I just want to ask the reason behind the prolonged shutdown of Tongonan 1. That's all.
Okay. Can I ask Carlos to respond to the second question, which deals on curtailment, Irene to respond to the reason for Tongonan, and somebody will respond to the question as regards organizational restructuring.
Good afternoon. For the question on the Palimpinon curtailment, actually Palimpinon Nasulo curtailment, on an average day or a typical day, we get curtailed by as much as 20 to 30 megawatts during the afternoon peak when the solar production in the island is at its highest. So just to give some order of magnitude, you would know that there's close to 600 megawatts of capacity, composed of roughly 300 megawatts from our geothermal and another 300 megawatts from solar and biomass. So largely, let's say, close to 250 megawatts of solar in Negros. Now, because there is not enough transfer capacity, it shouldn't be a problem because Negros is interconnected with Panay and the rest of Leyte, Cebu, and Luzon. It shouldn't be a problem if there was enough transfer capacity in the submarine cable. Now, because there isn't enough, the system operator is required to ensure that the grid is stable to curtail mainly the geothermal plants because solar is on a must-run dispatch. However, on the flip side, as I reported earlier, the way we plan to mitigate this is through the recent ancillary service contract signed for both Palimpinon and Nasulo. Essentially, what this will do is that the system operator will be paying us for getting curtailed. They will be paying us for the capacity that we've reserved so that they can use us as a ancillary service. there. I hope that answers your question.
So for the Pangonan Unit 1, what we mentioned is that the reason why the UOF has gone up to 40.3 on first quarter is because the outage which has begun in October of 2016 has actually crossed the first quarter of or the first month of 2017 due to few issues about the weather condition, as we mentioned earlier, and there was an additional regulatory requirement imposed by NGCP, mainly due to reconnection of brand new electrical equipment like transformers and protection system that would require us to reapply for certain documentation before we reconnect to the grid. So those are mainly the cause of delay.
Yeah, for question number 1, with respect to the organizational restructuring, sometime last year we actually undertook a manpower reduction program. So from a total of about 2,200 manpower, we're now down to about 1,860. So we were able to reduce our people by about 375 heads, and as a result, we were able to reduce the personnel cost. No? Also last year, I think part of the reason why the change is so much, no, is because we paid extra on top of what they are entitled to under the retirement plan, so that at least incentivize people to sign up for the program.
I just want to follow up what necessitated the manpower reduction.
So we wanted to streamline some of the processes now that we are undertaking. This is in line with the overall drive of the company to minimize our operating expenses. So this is in fact the third round that we've done over the last 7 years, 6-7 years. And again, as we streamline some of the processes, we need lesser people to actually operate, for example, some of our units.
One of the things that brought it up is this thing about our control system integration. As you would imagine, without modernizing our control systems, you will need 10 separate people operating the steel mill, for example, and you will also need another 10 people to operate the power plants. But with the implementation of the control systems integration, we actually cut down the number of people to about half from the usual normal 20 people that you will need to operate both. It's now down to 10 to operate both steam mills and the power plants.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to add yourself to the queue for the questions, you may signal by pressing star 1 on your telephone keypad. We have no further questions via the telephone at this time.
Okay, anyway, in behalf of everybody from EDC who are here with me inside the meeting room, we thank everybody who dialed in for today's call. I guess that's just about it from our end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your participation. That will conclude the earnings call on first quarter 2017 financial and operating results. We appreciate your participation. You may now disconnect.